So this is a Whiskey 61 edition of the Out of Bounds show, and we're super excited to have award-winning winemaker Mark Carter with Carter Cellars joining us on this Whiskey 61 edition of the Out of Bounds show, and he's here to entertain and be entertained in the great state of Mississippi with all of his 100-point wines. And Mark, if you would get kind of right, perfect. Good morning. How are you? Welcome to Mississippi.
I'm happy to be here. I love Mississippi. Used to do a journey through here with a group of winemakers and just had a fabulous time. So it's nice to be back and be invited to your show, Bo. Look forward to chatting with you.
So with all your 100-point wines, do you introduce yourself as the Tiger Woods or Tom Brady of the wine industry?
No, I wish I was any of those guys, but, I'm just a guy that loves flavor, and I love making wine, and I love making whiskey.
And we're drinking some Elijah Craig Private Barrel Select bourbon. When I meet Mark Carter, I didn't think that the first drink that I would have with him would be bourbon, but Mark and I are both okay with that.
It's delicious.
Oh man, it is super. Well, all right. So let's talk a little bit about you in the background. So your journey started with the Carter House Inns in Eureka, and you built an award-winning Wine Spectator Grand List.
That's correct. Yeah.
How long did that take?
It took about 12 to 13 years. I kind of got discouraged. I got right to the first spot that they do is they have three levels of the Wine Spectator Grand Award. First, you have just a 1-star, and a 2-star, and a 3-star, the Grand Award. And I was stuck on the second level for about 11 years, and I had already about 3,500 wines on the list. It's a big 100-page list. And I go, I didn't know if they were ever going to come see me. I need to put $5,000 in the envelope when I send in my, a wine list,
right.
something to catch their attention, do you know who I am, where I'm at, where I live, And the guy got really kind of upset one time because he says, we know who you are, and if you stop calling, maybe we'll come see you.
Wow.
And they did, and I got the Grand Award in '98. And I've had one ever since.
Wow. Okay, so was that a big celebration? I mean, did you get a call? Was it some kind of like official letter, FedEx in the mail? How did this happen?
They send you a plaque, and they also give you a call and said you got the Grand Award, which there's only 100 in the world, so it's quite the honor. And all the other people are very famous, chefs and everything, and they're in major cities and great places. Eureka is a long ways from just about anything. It's remote, but it's one of the most beautiful spots on the planet.
Okay. Mark Carter joining us on this Whiskey 61 edition of the Out of Bounds show. Carter Cellars, many 100-point wines, 90, as he told us before the interview, and a bunch of 99-point wines, and one 99 plus. So, all right, you take off. And you've got the Wine Spectator Grand Award wine list. And then in 2000, you start a relationship with Beckstoffer.
Yes, I was.
How did that, tell me how that all came to fruition and how that happened.
I was very lucky. That Grand Award got people to Eureka.
Got it.
And one night I'm coming back from dinner at my house around the corner from the hotel, and I asked the dining room manager how it was going, and the dining room manager said, it's going great. Table 5 has made our night. He's already bought about $4,000 worth of wine off the list. So I said, well, I better go see who Table 5 is. And I go over and I go, hello, how is everything? He said, oh, my God, it's amazing. This is one of the greatest wine lists I've ever had in the world. This is 98. Before I get the Grand Award, just a few months before. And I go, he goes, you have my wine on this list. I go, oh, I do? Which wine's yours? He says, well, it's the Colgan Schrader wine. I'm Fred Schrader. And I go, I've been buying your wine since you first came out in '92. In fact, I have an allocation. I used to get 2 cases I've been whittled down to 6 bottles. And he said, well, you'll have to talk to my ex-wife about that, he said, because I don't have anything to do with it anymore. I have a new brand coming out. It's called Schrader. And I go, well, send me 2 cases of that then. Boom. And he said, well, it's not out yet, but when it is, I will. And I said, well, how's the wine? He says, it's really good. Why don't you get a glass? And I said, I don't mind if I do. No. So I go get the glass, sit down with Fred. We sit there. We drink wine till 4 o'clock in the morning. And he finally says to me, you ever think about making wine? And I said, yeah. I got a guy, Nils Vinge said he'd make my wine for me, but I don't have any grapes. And he goes, I have some grapes you can have. It was like too good to be true.
Unbelievable. And so they're in your restaurant. They're having a great time. They're buying $4,000 worth of wine. You end up partying with them till 4 a.m.
Absolutely.
This is a Netflix series. Mark Carter on the Out of Bounds show, hanging out. He's award-winning winemaker and also in the bourbon game, which we'll get into a little bit later in the discussion. And I'm happy that I'm drinking bourbon with him, and he's in our studio, and this is super fun. So this takes off.
Yes.
I mean, did you ever in your wildest dreams from that night think, wow, I'm eventually going to be awarded 100-point wines by critics like Robert Parker?
That's always your goal. You always want to be the best at something, anyway, I feel that way. So my goal was to make a 100-point wine when I started. I said it took a while.
How long?
So our first 100-point wine came in 2012. We started making wine in 98.
Okay. When did you feel how long did it take you before you felt like you were actually on the road to making a 100-point wine? How many years in?
We were doing pretty good. It was in those days the scale was much higher. Spectator wouldn't give you very high scores. Parker didn't. They weren't giving 100 points out. For a lot of that time. 2000. Let's see. I think it was the Groth 85 Reserve was the wine that was one of the first wines to get the 100 points in America, and I think they started giving them back out when Screaming Eagle got theirs first 100 points. And so then it got a little easier with a few more critics to get the 100 points. But Robert Parker was the first for the 2012, which I have with me today. The GTO was our first official one besides the 2002 Tokalon that we made.
Wow. Okay, so you get on the journey. You're still doing other things, right? I mean, you're
running a hotel and restaurant.
Yeah. How did you balance? All right. So how did you balance running the hotel and restaurant and keeping it where you wanted, and also you're going after this 100-point rating where you want to be in the 0.01% of winemakers in the world?
Well, it was in those days I'd be driving up and down the road because. The hotel is in Eureka. Making the wine is in Napa, which is about 250 miles apart. So some days I'd drive all the way down, make wine, and drive all the way back and run the hotel. It was pretty crazy.
That's a full schedule. Yeah. How long did you do that?
Did that until 2005. In 2005, I moved and got an apartment so I could stay longer in Napa Valley, and we bought the winery in 2006.
Where were you? We're visiting with Mark Carter Cellars, on the Whiskey 61 edition of the Out of Bounds show. Where were you when you received your first call, or however they delivered it to you, that one of your wines received 100 points?
This is a great story. I was building and adding on to the winery. I'm on top of a roof. And 3 people start calling me. I'm putting a roof on this barrel barn that I'm building, and I started getting all these calls. And I answered one. And it's Fred Schrader calling me to congratulate me for getting the 100 points off the Tokalon Vineyard. And I couldn't talk. I was so excited. I started crying like a baby. It was crazy. It was so emotional.
Yeah.
That I did what I tried to do, set out to do.
All All right, so you're on a roof. This is a crazy story. Mark Carter's on a roof, roofing.
Somebody thought I fell off the roof.
I'm glad you didn't.
Or cut off another thumb.
Oh, all right. So that's your first one, and now you're introduced to the world. You're already doing well, but you get the 100-point rating. How did things change, if they did, after that?
In those days, you got 100 points. You sold out of that wine really quick.
Gone.
Everybody's calling you, say, I want some of that wine. So we oversold the wine. Actually, I had a kid working for me, and we had to call people back up and say, "I'm sorry, we were just joking."
Yeah. I understand. All right, it's a good spot to be in. How many did you say you've got? 25.
Yes,
100-point wine.
That's what they tell me at the winery. They say we got 25, and looking for more always.
That is like Tom Brady. So I'll relate this to sports. That's like Roger Federer, Tom Brady, Tiger Woods, Steph Curry type stuff. So what is that like to be in that kind of rarefied air in the wine industry?
You don't think about it. You just keep making wine and want to make great wine. You don't take yourself too seriously. Just go out and do the work.
Does it couldn't get old to get the call?
No.
Even though it's 25 times, it can't get old to get the call of, "Hey, Mark, we just decided to give you another 100-point rating."
That it never does get old. And I'm so fortunate because I do have a great team behind me. The winemaker today, I have Russell Bevan, Dan Blaine, my GM, all the people who work in the cellars, all the people who make and grow the grapes for us. Without all of them, none of this would happen. Impossibility.
When did you get to buy your first vineyard?
98 was the first vineyard we got, and that was because of Fred Schrader. He got me this, was known as the Hausfeld Coliseum. Beautiful up on Atlas Peak area. It was Henry Hausfeld put the vineyard in, and it was all rock. It's a big slope. You couldn't put the vineyard in today. His daughter, he has passed away, but his daughter, Alicia, runs the vineyard, and they make some wine themselves underneath Hausfeld. And it's just a fabulous vineyard. I still make wine from that vineyard, and it's been a really wonderful relationship for many, many years.
Who's the most famous person that you've drank wine with?
I don't know. Not that many famous people, just a lot of great people.
Right.
Fun people.
All right. I'll let you think on that because I have a feeling something's going to. All right. So Mark Carter.
I don't know what's
Carter
in there,
Cellars,
that story,
Whiskey 61 edition of the Out of Bounds show. Award-winning winemaker, 25 100-point wines, and how many 99s did you say?
I think we have about 50.
Unreal.
That's always sad because you're just 1 point away from perfection.
Still very prestigious.
It is. Yeah.
And thanks to Alan Lang for helping facilitate this. Alan and I were drinking wine at his house last Friday night, and he was like, "Mark Carter's coming in town. I'm going to see if I can get you an interview," and it worked out. And this is super cool. All right, so let's go to you're. I can tell you're all geeked out on bourbon too.
Oh yeah,
I am too. And briefly before the show, we were talking how I've had Four Roses bourbon, Wild Turkey / Russell's Reserve, and now Heaven Hill Elijah Craig is the official bourbon of the show. And it's a ton of fun to go up to Louisville and Lexington and go pick out barrel picks. And that whole community is a lot like Mississippi people. They're just really, really nice, good people and go to all these different distilleries. All right, Mark Carter, how did you get in the bourbon business?
Again, very lucky. Being an innkeeper, having the inn for so many years, I got on a couple of national boards for innkeeping, and I met a lot of people from all across the country. And one of them was here actually was in Kentucky, and owned the Beaumont Inn. And Chuck Dedman told me his story, and when I was out there one time, and said his family used to make some bourbon. I said, well, that's really nice. And he told me the story. He said, but Prohibition came along, and they took my 5,000 barrels, our family's 5,000 barrels downriver, and put it in a warehouse. Oh. And then my great-grandfather, C.M. Dedman, said, what we should really get some insurance on that. And the government guy said, hey, you don't really need insurance on that. Son, it's good as gold. It's U.S. government, And he says, I still want some insurance on that. And not too far after that, the big warehouse burnt down, supposedly. Everything burnt down in it. And they never got their bourbon back after Prohibition. And they never got a plug nickel. And it was a sad story, and that was Kentucky Owl. And so I never forgot that story. And they have Chuck passed the torch for running the inn along to his son, Dixon Dedman. And Dixon liked wine, so I was making wine for other people.
Yeah.
And Dixon said, can you make some wine for me? And I said, yeah, the answer is always yes.
Right.
And so, but we started looking at that, and I said, it was not going to be, it was wine by the glass instead of, ultra premium wine that I would be more interested in. And I said, Dixon, your dad used to tell me a story that you used to make bourbon. Why don't we bring your brand back? So this is 2011. We start talking about this.
Right at the bourbon boom.
Yes. And we were one of the first to really bring back a brand that was around, before Prohibition.
Right.
And that we did that, and and it took off,
That's so cool. So you're a rock star in the wine industry, and then you get into the bourbon game in 2011, and that thing is taken off. You ever pinch yourself and go, what the hell's happened here? I mean,
I am a very fortunate person.
Yeah.
I love
and obviously
people.
very talented.
I love people, and I love listening to stories that people tell me, and I learn from people telling me their story.
Yeah.
And remember them from their stories.
That's part of drinking wine with people, right? Yeah. It's the storytelling. It's like I love smoking cigars. It's all about the conversations, storytelling. You pick up things, and you've obviously leveraged those.
It brings people together. Both the bourbon community is a fabulous community. The wine community is also, and people want to. It brings people together. It's just great. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time today, and thanks for hanging out with us. And
both.
I'm gonna, now that you're living in Louisville, when we go up there to pick out an Elijah Craig barrel pick, I'm gonna ring you.
Yeah, you got to come see me. We'll drink some either wine or whiskey together.
Yeah, I'm in 100%.
This has been really fun. Had a great time.
Thanks for hanging out. Mark Carter Cellars on the Whiskey 61 edition of the Out of Bounds show. Thanks, dude.
Thank you. That was fun.
That was awesome.